Holy guacamole, is Keir Starmer's Labour in trouble right now? The past week has been absolutely wild in terms of what's gone on. While it is saddening, I will admit that the original story of 3 children dying has kind of been buried at this point underneath the reaction. I think you'd have to be a complete moron to not understand why the reaction is happening. Now, do I agree with what's happening here? No, not really. Setting alight a police station is not a very wise move to make. It's probably going to just cause more problems than anything else. However, only an idiot really could have not seen this coming. And I think the idiot in question here is this bank manager on the right-hand side. The response to the riots from the government has been absolutely hilarious because it has been literally the worst thing they could have possibly done for their own power. Through their own arrogance and blind hatred for the white working class, they have literally declared war on them. Now, this is something that Tony Blair's Labour would never have done. You see, no matter what you think of Tony Blair, I think he's, the devil incarnate. I think a lot of people would agree with me on that. No matter what you think of Tony Blair, he was a very clever tyrant. He knew how to manipulate the population and he knew exactly what to say in situations like this. If this was Tony Blair's Labour, what would have happened is he would have come out on public television, Tony Blair, and he'd have gotten in front of the public and he'd have said, look, I understand your frustrations, I understand your concerns, and the Labour Party is going to do everything it possibly can to track down these criminals who raped these girls and who killed these girls. We'll do everything we can to alleviate the situation. And then he'd go on to say, rioting is not the answer, but we understand your concerns. And so what he would have done there is he would have poured a little bit of water onto the fire. He would have, quelled the tensions a little bit by at least pretending to be doing something about it. Now, we all know that he wouldn't actually do anything about it. I mean, come on, we've been on this merry-go-round for quite a while now. But I think really the reaction that Mr. Kier Starlin over here has had with his declaration of war on the British public, I think really it just shows their utter incompetence and low IQ in terms of how to handle these situations. The response from the Labour Party to this has not been evil, it has been idiotic. Any evil person worth their salt would have seen that this was the worst possible thing you could have possibly done. And so all he's done really is guarantee that the Labour Party will be destroyed within 3 months. I guarantee you, I bet you a Greg's pastry that this Labour government will be dissolved within 3 months because this tension is not going away amongst the white working class. And all he has done by declaring war on them is he's thrown like 5 tubs of gasoline onto the fire. As I said in my previous video, don't attend these protests. It's not wise. You're probably just going to end up ruining your life by getting arrested. And then once you've gotten arrested, you've got a criminal record. And once you've got a criminal record, that's basically game over for playing in the normal person economy. Once you've got a criminal record, you then have to resort to begging for money or, begging the government for money, begging friends for money, because, once you've got a criminal record in this country, no one will give you anything. So don't go to these protests. However, only the biggest monumental retard could have not seen that this would be the reaction. Now, there are theories out there that this was meant to be the reaction, that the whole thing was orchestrated and that, they wanted to declare war on the British public as bait to get the British public to take the bait, and then they can use this as an excuse to crack down on the far right, etc. But I don't think that's going to work. Even if that is the case, I don't think that's what's going to happen here. Because even if they do crack down on the right wing, what are they going to do? I mean, the recent Tommy Robinson rally in London on the 27th of July, I believe it was, there was like 50,000 people at that. So what are you going to do with 50,000 people? You know, the Liberals, I don't think they understand this because they huff their own farts every day and they live in sunny Richmond upon Thames and they drink their martinis and, they live in this very abstract world where everything's on a screen and everything's read through the Guardian newspaper, and it's all about your intelligentsia and what kind of hot take you can come out with. These people don't live in the real world, and so they don't understand how these things operate in the real world. They think that shaming people works all the time because that's the only tactic they've got. I mean, you look at these people actually, they're pathetic. They're the losers of society, and they're all incredibly weak. They're all mentally unstable, a lot of the left wing. They're the losers of society, and so they've got no power outside of shaming people. And I think really this is the last lashing out of that shaming mentality of, oh, we can just control everyone by shaming them. No, it's not 2014 anymore. It's not Gamergate anymore. 10 years have passed, and in those 10 years, you have built up a ginormous mountain of resentment that the working class have towards you. And over the past week, we've had the straw that's broken the camel's back, and now you can't control it anymore. You're shaming and saying, oh, you're going to use facial recognition tech and all this crap on protests. It's not going to work. What are you going to do with these 50,000 people? Now, there's not 50,000 people attending riots, admittedly. But, in terms of how this is going to affect the wider right wing as a whole, what are you going to do with the right wing as a whole? There's 50,000 peaceful right wingers out there because that's what we estimate attended the Tommy Robinson rally. And then on top of that, you can estimate a further 50,000 or maybe even a further 100,000 didn't attend but were watching quietly behind the scenes. What are you going to do with potentially 150,000 people who you have just declared war on? Are you going to throw them in a concentration camp? You haven't got rooms for them in the prison system. The prisons are all full by your own admission. There's no more cells. So what are you going to do? Are you going to empty the prisons and put the right wing in the prisons and let prisoners roam free on the streets? Well, that's just going to cause even more riots, isn't it, Sonny Jim? They have really backed themselves into a corner here, and you can see the fear flickering in their eyes. They don't know what to do. All their liberal paradigm strategies have failed. They do not know what to do about this. And so, like I say here, I give this government 3 months before they are out on their arse. One does wonder if this is why the Conservative Party effectively chose to lose the election in the first place. If you look back at the election and what happened, it's very evident actually that the Conservative Party seemingly wanted to lose this election. They didn't want to get into power this time round. They wanted to hand this over to the Labour Party. The Conservative Party during the election, they basically withdrew all of their funds from campaigning, and the Conservative Party sit on a fat ton of money for campaigning. So they withdrew all of that. They told all of their candidates basically to give up. I think to a certain extent the Conservative Party knew what they were doing in handing the keys of power over to the idiots over in the Labour camp. They knew what they were doing because the Conservative Party knew something like this was going to boil over, and Labour were going to be the ones that would light the flame because they're so idiotic they wouldn't realise that the room is full of gas and that they've just lit a match. So yeah, as I said, don't go to these protests. Don't cause trouble and cause rioting, etc. It's not a wise war strategy. If we go along with the mentality that Keir Starmer has just declared war on the white working class population, then we need to be in war strategy mode. And running out into no man's land without a gun going, I'm going to fucking kill you. That's not a war strategy. That's just how you get shot in the face. Be a sensible person, sit back like I'm going to do, and just watch the Labour Party absolutely destroy themselves. because they are not going to be able to contain this. Anyone who is scared of Keir Starmer and is scared of his quote-unquote tough guy speech he delivered, you need to get your testosterone levels checked, because this guy is about as intimidating as a fly. All his tough guy speeches that he did, if you analyze all of the ways he wants to try and crack down on us, none of this stuff is going to work. It could have worked 3 years ago during COVID, and that's why during COVID I was pretty worried that they might actually get somewhere with this. Because during COVID, it did look possible that they could introduce a digital ID system and, track and trace and all that stuff. People were buying into all that in 2021. And so that was really when they had the opportunity to strike while the iron was hot. But now it's too late, Sonny Jim. Now it's way too late. People are not going to accept a digital ID anymore. Like I said, you've got a potential cohort of up to maybe 200,000 people who are not going to accept your little control regime. So what are you going to do with them? Are you going to close their bank accounts? Are you going to throw them in a concentration camp? Well, all that'll do is make the tensions worse, won't it? All that will do is activate further sleeper agents who are on the fence about it. They are completely in a corner and they have nothing that they can do. So all you need to do on the right is sit back and watch them destroy themselves.